Hello, my friends. I am Marwa. I weave, paint, dance, write. I walk with plants, and I share these practices with everyone around me and tell my stories. In today's video, I'll be making Calendula Balm and tell you about my recent findings. As you saw in the previous episode, I've been thinking about my studio a lot lately and how it was growing to be a space that defines what gets made, what I allow into it, like rocks, plants, sounds, images, habits, somehow finds its way into the work, so it's no longer just a container for creation. And that got me thinking about what I consume, not only in the obvious sense as food, but also everything else we take in. Whether it's a conversation, short videos, or the news, the rhythm of constantly refreshing and absorbing. All of it enters, settles somewhere, transforms, and eventually comes back out, even if we don't notice it. Recently in my personal life, I've been going through a change in what I allow into my system. It started with being more attentive, more intentional about my food, trying to understand what actually supports my body. As I paid attention to what I was eating, I started to pay attention to other things. I noticed that I naturally stopped consuming short-form content. And it's been more than a month now. The change is very subtle. The way I visualize things, the way I dream or paint, it feels like there is more room for boredom, more silence, like something has slowed down enough for other, quieter things to emerge. Stepping away from screens, I don't feel like missing out. I feel more receptive to people, to conversations, to the small details. It's like the same input is still there, but arriving through different channels. I'm not saying this as a suggestion to cut things out completely. It's not about restriction. It's more like pausing just long enough to notice what happens when certain inputs are removed. With food, it's easier for us to understand. We see how it affects our energy and our health. But with information, it's less visible, even though it might be just as powerful. Everything we take in is processed, integrated, and eventually expressed in some form. This whole process of observing and responding with the world, I find very much connected to the women in my life. Some are present now, some from earlier times. All of them shaping the way I take care of myself, the way I create, the way I listen. There are behaviors I carry without even realizing where they come from. Ways of preparing food, ways of healing, ways of paying attention to what I allow into my life. I was reminded of something the philosopher and botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote, that the world can be seen as a gift, not as mere commodity. And I realized that this way of seeing is not new to me. It's something I inherited from my mother, from my grandmother, and from the generations before them. It's how they introduced me to the world. In spring, we would go out foraging and recognize what's growing in that season. Gather our favorite herbs, taste them, learn their names and their affinities. There was an understanding, that what is available is not random, it is offered, and that this offering comes with a kind of responsibility to know it, to receive it properly, to share it, to give thanks and give something in return. This knowledge didn't come from books, it came through women who shared what they knew, who pointed at plants, who explained, who passed things on through practice and presence. And even now, this continues. The plants I can identify today, the way I work with them, the small personal materia medica I'm building, it's all shaped through these encounters, through guidance, generosity, and shared knowledge. So when spring arrives now, it feels layered. It's a gift from nature and also a gift of memory, a continuation, a way of carrying something valuable forward while still discovering it again for myself. This is a form of consuming, not by taking, more by receiving. And through all these encounters, I've been learning how to receive guidance from people too. Being inspired by others is natural. It happens all the time. We see something that moves us, a way of doing things, a gesture, a rhythm, and we feel drawn to it. We want to bring it closer, to integrate it into our own lives. It happens in the forest too. They call it biomimicry. But there is a balance there. I feel a pause to listen to ourselves. How much do I take in? What actually resonates with me? There were moments, my friends, when all I wanted is to drop everything I know and follow something exactly as it was given, to trust it completely, almost without questioning. And sometimes that's part of the process, especially when learning from someone who carries deep knowledge. Over time, I've come to understand that receiving is not the same as copying. Life was not meant to be lived secondhand after all. I see it more like a dialogue. Something is offered, and I meet it with my own experience. Some parts stay, some parts change, some parts fall away. Not placing what I receive above me, but also not dismissing it. Just allowing it to pass through and seeing what becomes mine. And along the way, there have been so many women, each one contributing something essential through practical knowledge, habits, small changes that slowly shaped how I live now. More recently, I've been learning from Siham, a healer, a grandmother, and a radiant spirit who has been guiding me through a different approach to food and health. At first, the diet she gave me felt restrictive. I had to exclude dairy products, breads, sweets, sugars, citrus flavors, cold foods and drinks, and so many more. But I must say, I was slowly becoming more creative with it. I started cooking with a limited palette, almost like how I work with watercolors, finding ways to make meals aligned with the system and artistic at the same time from a few ingredients. And more importantly, I started noticing changes in my body, relief, especially related to inflammation and sinus issues. I didn't expect that food could have such a direct impact. What feels different to me now is the listening. I trust there is something in the body that knows. And maybe the role of all these practices, whether diet, fasting, meditation, herbal medicine, different traditions, is not to give us rigid answers, but to help us hear that voice more clearly, to create the conditions where listening becomes possible. And in a way, this brings me back to the studio. Because maybe the studio, or our homes, are also like a body, and maybe what we allow into it, materials, references, distractions, rhythms, is a form of consumption that shapes our lives. So I'm starting to wonder, what are we allowing in, and what begins to emerge when we give it just a little more space? After all, we are as a species navigating all of this for the very first time in our history, and I feel we need to give ourselves permission to explore all of it very slowly. Lately, I've been taking a step deeper into something I've loved for a long time, studying herbal formulation, and I'm really looking forward to learning more and sharing more of it with you. I planted the seeds, big orange flowers glowing on our balcony. I collected them one by one, dried them in a basket, then covered them in oil for 40 days. Turned them into a balm with beeswax and essential oils. This is the gift of calendula. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.